Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today is day 7 of Vlogmas and my top 5 reads of November, so let's dive in. The first book is How to Be a Heroine, or What I Have Learned from Reading Too Much by Samantha Ellis. This is a nonfiction that is focused on heroines of literature and the overall effect that they have on the author herself and her morals and her values and her core being and her existence, and how she really finds these women to be inspiring and honorable and really, really important to her in her everyday life. I really, really adored this book. It broke down a lot of heroines that I hadn't read about, which was kind of a spoiler to them because I hadn't read about them, and this does divulge a lot of end results of stories. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but it did not actually dissolve any of my enjoyment of this book. I really liked hearing about what their history was of these heroines and what they really, really represented to this author and how she felt so connected to them. I felt even more intrigued, especially knowing that she was not of a white descent and that these were mostly white heroines. So it was really interesting to see that relationship and how it developed. There was a lot of books that were really, really important to her as a child that have remained so, and heroines that have remained really important to her from all ages of her life and all stages of her life. It was really beautiful, really wonderful, and I highly recommend it to anybody that is curious about heroines of literature that are famous. Next, we have The Time in Between. This is by Nancy Tucker. It's a memoir of hunger and hope. I find that this book is really, really beautiful. I think it's very different from Wasted by Maria Hornbacher. If you like Wasted, you will like this, but it is a very different feel. It is still very honest and very well depicted to experience what it's like to have an eating disorder, but it is a little more soft and a little less harsh. I think it has a little bit less grit to it and a little less grime. I definitely think that for those who are interested in learning about eating disorders but are not really ready to dive into the darker side of it, this is a really great place to start. I really found that this book helped me a lot as I've been struggling quite a bit with my own eating ever since my surgery, and also with my own body ever since my surgery, and so this really helped me come back into my own body and feel connected to it again, and feel connected to food, and feel connected to the way that I eat. And that was a really, really big thing for me, which I was really lacking and really needed some help with. So there are different types of media within this which are written in really different and exquisite ways, and they're really well executed. I really enjoy this. I highly recommend it, and I think that for anybody who is interested in eating disorders, this is a great place to start. Then we have Unmentionable by Teresa O'Neill. This is absolutely fantastic. I love this and I learned so much, and I will reread over and over again and find more and more fun facts in. This book really dives into the experience of the middle-class white woman in Victorian England and America. It does not dive a lot into the feeling of those who are lower class or higher class, but it does give you an overall feeling of what it would be like to live in the middle-class society and how that would be on a day-to-day basis. It is really focused on women's bodies and ideas and mannerisms. It is really focused on the day-to-day experiences and what would happen if you were one way or another, such as overweight or too thin, or if you were to be crazy like myself, or if you were to be there was a lot of intense wordings in here that were very judgmental on women. I think that that was really one of the things I took away, is just how much and how far we've come. The experience of women was really, really harsh and really, really dark, and I definitely think that there is a lot of growth room for us as women in general, but we've come quite a long way, and a lot of the stuff that was taught to women about their own bodies and their own experience in their own bodies was taught to them by men, which was not really the best of information, and there was a lot of information about their bodies that was wrong, and that was really detrimental to their experience, and that was really harmful to their psyche. So I think that this book is really interesting, and it definitely checked me on my privilege and made me think a lot about my experience as a woman and how my life could have been had I been born in a different time, and what would be a really scary experience for me if I were to think about it now. Next we have, oh, this is a big one. Then we have The Revolution of Marina M. This is a fantastic book. I'm going to do a full in-depth review on this tomorrow, so I'm just mentioning it here, and I'm going to move on to the next book. Then my number one book of the month is Shirley Jackson, A Rather Haunted Life by Ruth Franklin, and I absolutely adored this. I have tabbed one spot in particular, that is the chapter talking about Bird's Nest, which is my favorite book of the year, or one of my favorite books of the year, and I will be reading it again next year when I read all of Shirley Jackson's works. This book dived into Shirley Jackson and her experience as a woman and her experience in her day-to-day life and what she had as a living situation with her husband, who I am not a fan of. I do not like her husband. I think he is a terrible man, and I think that he was no good for her, and I wish to goodness that she could have left him, but unfortunately she did not have that opportunity, as she died very young of obesity and depression. So she had a really rough life, and she really had some moments where she was in a scary situation of her own mental state and physical body. I really, really adored this book. I think it is dark and wonderful and fantastic, and it dives into a lot of the books. If you have not read Shirley Jackson's works yet, this does spoil them for you quite a bit, because it goes into them and gets analytical, and it really dissects them and talks about them in a more in-depth way, and it discusses what the meaning of them is and the deeper side of them is and what they represent. I definitely think it's really well worth it to read, especially if you have read her works already and are curious about anything that she has written and what it may have meant to her or what it may have meant in general. If you are curious about Shirley Jackson as an author and don't mind being spoiled, this book is fantastic. I read it without having read more than 3 of her works, and I really am excited to still read them, even though I know the ending to all of them now, and I am really, really excited to dive into her works overall. So there is that. Alright guys, that has been my video for today. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button down below. And if you have any questions, comments, or quandaries, go ahead and comment down below in the comment box. And I will see you all in my next video tomorrow. Bye!